Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm back with another video. It is Saturday, March 14th in the afternoon here, and what I like to do is, there's a lot of people who are covering the day-to-day details of the current war in Iran and the wars in Venezuela, the attack in Venezuela that happened, and that seems to have gone down the memory hole. And of course, the Ukraine war, which has seemed to have kind of in the process of going down the memory hole. Now everybody's preoccupied with Iran. But what I like to do is to put all of these things in context. There was I studied German in German literature in college, and there was a very famous philosopher named Nietzsche. And one of the key concepts that he had was something called the revaluation of values. He was saying essentially, this was back in the late 19th century, like 1890 or so, that Western civilization had some serious problems, and that we needed a revaluation of values. And I would argue that that is the theme of this discussion. I talk about the roots of militarism, and what I've done is I've selected three videos which I think kind of illustrate the point here. The first one is one of the Secretary of War, his self-styled sobriquet for his new title of his job, and the persona that he presents. I went to a kind of very good high school called Boston Latin School. It was the oldest public school in the United States, and the oldest public school in the country, which preceded the United States. It was founded in 1635, I believe, and it was created to be a kind of a prep school for Harvard University. And although I only stayed there for 4 years, from the 7th through the 10th grade, I still, remember that time. It gave me a really excellent education. It taught me Latin language, which was it's a very sophisticated language, and was the basis for most of the Western languages, especially English and French. But the point is that we have this thing called the declamation contest, and so some of the students would get up. There was a big auditorium, and the people would these students, some of them, they would compete in this declamation contest, where they would have to recite a speech of some kind of famous speech of some entity, some famous personage. And they would get up and they would gesticulate, and they were very forceful, and the intonations and all these kinds of things. And I watched Pete Hegseth, and I think he probably, got some training to be in a declamation contest, because he's very forceful about the way he talks, and he's very clear, and this is how it should be. We are the greatest military in the world. We will be merciless. And, he talks like that. And it's kind of, to be honest with you, it's overly dramatic to my taste, and most of what he says is, it's not even true, So it makes him a great propagandist, but it doesn't necessarily make him a great Secretary of Defense, which is shown by the fact that he tells us every day that we are winning, and the Iran army is decimated, and on and on and on. And yet here they are, they're still, bombing our military bases and so on. There's a big disconnect between his exclamatory statements and the Operation Fury, whatever. I can't even remember the name of it at this point. I call it epic. I call it epic F up. It's not epic fury. It's epic. It is fury, of course, in the sense of furious, but it's maybe called epic fanaticism. That might be another term for it. So anyway, I start off this post with a video by him to give you an example of what I'm talking about. But then I follow it with a video that was made back in, I think it was like in 2011, by a guy named Paul Edwards. And he has made a number of films. He's got a YouTube channel called Class War Films. And he and I are in touch, and he asked me if I would repost his video. So that's exactly what I've done here. And I also posted the transcript of the video so that you can read it as well as watch the video to see what he has to say. Basically, what he's saying is that the military is destroying our country. That is actually what it's doing. There's a kind of, I have a background in studying Eastern philosophy. Zen comes from China, and Taoism is incorporate, or I would say that Zen Buddhism is a kind of synthesis of Confucian philosophy, which is a very deep ethical philosophy of how to live and how to structure society, and so is Taoism. And one of the main points that Taoism makes is that you really don't want to have wars, and especially long wars, because a long war is it drains the energy out of a society. I recently saw a very interesting quote by a Russian commander in the Donbass, that is in that area that separated itself from Ukraine following the U.S. coup in 2014. And of course, there's been a war going on there since 2014, and of course, in 2022, the Russians went in there because there was an incipient, ethnic cleansing that was about to happen in February and March 2022. But this commander said, when you kill another person, you also kill part of yourself. And when we wage war on other countries, we are actually killing ourselves. And how this manifests is that our own society is disintegrating. And that's the point of the video that Paul Edwards makes. I urge you to watch the video and see what he has to say. I've also included the transcript. I created the transcript for it below. And then, now that was made in 2011. So 2026, I have a video of the Secretary of War, who is very proud of himself for being a ruthless killer. That's basically what he's talking about. We're going to get rid of the rules of war, forget all these restraints on what we should and shouldn't do. And of course, when the United States bombs a school with little girls, they disavow that they did it, or they openly brag that if you're completely merciless, who cares if you kill 170 little girls, because they're the enemy, and if they're the enemy, then it's okay to kill them. This is kind of the attitude. So lurching forward here beyond what Paul Edwards talked about in 2011, there was, during the 1960s, I am a child of the 1960s, and there was a very strong movement at that time, an anti-war movement. There's a movie that was made called My Dinner with Andre, made in 1982. And in that movie, he says, the protagonist of that movie, Andre Gregory, said that he thought the 1960s were the last chance for humanity to maintain its consciousness, and since then we've lost it. So we're still around, but it's really a question whether we've got it. And when you see what's going on nowadays with these endless wars, it looks like Andre Gregory's statement was true. And my goal is, being a diehard holdover of the peace movement, is to alert you to the possibility of historical memory, where, yes, there is a reason why things are the way they are. And in this video, the third video, it's called the Bold Marauder. This was a song that was sung by, it was written and sung by a guy named Richard Farina. And he and his girlfriend and then wife, Mimi Farina, who is the sister of Joan Baez, sang this quite quite moving song, and it's called I am. He says, "Hey hey ho ho, I am the bold marauder. Hey hey ho ho, I am the white destroyer." And he's basically talking about the nature of American civilization, how it's just we just go around killing people in the name of religion, even, which is exactly what we see going on with Pete Hegseth. So that's why I call this post "The Roots of Militarism," because we could see these trends happening way back when in the 19 we're talking about, like 1965 or so. We're talking, long time ago, and here we are today. So the reason why I'm just posting this, I'm not going to talk too long about it. I'd rather you actually see the videos, um, to um, to help you understand, how did we get to where we are? This really, um, I would say, catastrophic place in where American society is, and how are we possibly going to dig ourselves out of it? Which is what Paul Edwards talks about, and what I'm talking about, and what Richard Farina was alerting us to way back then. So I hope you will, watch all three of these videos, because there is continuity between them. There's a reason why people like um, Pete Hegseth are in the positions that we're in. How did he get to be in that position, where even notions of international law, even laws of war, are thrown out the window? Where did that come from? And that's why I call this post "The Roots of Militarism." It's basically an excuse to go around killing people, which is the consciousness that it seems to infect a large part of the political class in the United States, unfortunately. So please, if you can, please share these videos. I think they're very important, and give me a like, and share them with your friends. Talk about these things. It's very important that we talk about these issues with each other, so that we can raise each other's consciousness, and somehow put an end to this endless cycle of violence that we're in. So thank you again for listening, and I will talk to you again soon.